Well, first of all, thank you, everyone. I am so glad to see that we had any people at all show up. I am a Notre Dame grad 2000. I did the master's in accounting in 2001, so I also could technically talk about accounting. If anyone want to switch topics, I can do that, instead. But I sort of doubt that would not be favorable. So I'll talk about bartending instead. So just in case you're wondering, so the connection to Rochester, aside from the fact that I was up there for about 12 years and I was involved with the club up there, that is where I got my bartender training. So there is a little place over on West Henrietta Road. It's across from the main post office. So anyone who knows Rochester at all knows exactly what, at least where this place is. And just to qualify what Maura said, licensed bartender is a generous title. What this really is, it's a training program. It's a lot of training, actually. It's about 40 hours, and I did it more for recreation and as a hobby. And it has at times served well. Like when you have a bunch of people over, or you need to improvise when you got like one liquor on hand and you need to make drinks for a couple different tastes. It helps. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go probably quickly, so if anyone needs me to slow down or stop, let me know, ask a question, speak over me, please, because I want this to be interactive as well. So if you do have questions, definitely speak up. And so I'm going to just kind of go over the basics. So what we're not going to do here is, like, if any of you have seen like the movie Cocktail where they're tossing bottles in, that is not at all what this is about. This is more practical, just like what you would see, in a home for entertaining guests. Now it looks like there's a lot of stuff on this table, and there is, but I'm going to break it down, and there's really not as much as you think. And when you see a bartender doing his or her thing at like a wedding or at a bar, most of this stuff is kind of hidden and organized either below them in bar racks or above them, or if it's like, call liquor, like brand name liquor, it's usually highlighted behind them on shelves that are leveled, like the more expensive ones are usually higher. That's why I call it top shelf. But what you see here is kind of a basic setup that you could make. There's probably several dozen drinks that you could make with just what you see on this table here. And there's really, it looks like a lot of stuff and it's expensive, but this is really maybe only $150, $200 worth of stuff. There's not a whole lot here. So when you think about a basic bar setup, and by the way, I think we'll try to get some PowerPoints out in case anyone wants to see some of this. Let me back up for a second. So first of all, anytime you talk about bartending, you always talk about safety first a little bit. So I just want to highlight that. So number one thing you need to know the standard drink sizes, and you need to know your guests so that you can, if they're drinking heavily, you got to know how much they're drinking, how much they can handle. If they're getting out of hand, you got to know how to kind of cut them off gracefully or slow them down. So the standard drink sizes, most of you know this, but 12 ounces for beer, 4 ounces for wine, 1.25 ounces of 80 proof liquor. So most of these liquors up here are 80 proof. Or if you get like some of the higher liquors where they're like closer to 100 proof or 50% alcohol, standard serving size is 1 ounce. So most people can tolerate about one serving per hour. That's kind of the rule of thumb. And you got to look out for your guests. Make sure you know how fast they're consuming things, and again, know how to slow them down. And in this day and age, there's no excuse. It's easy to call an Uber. So if someone does overindulge, you got to look out for them. So just wanted that's one of the important components of bartender training is that safety. So just wanted to get that right up front. But in any event, in terms of a basic bar setup, there's kind of the rule of thumb, the 5 clears. Okay, so the 5 clears in alphabetical order are gin, rum, tequila, triple sec, and vodka. So this is the one we'll be be working with most today. But these four are also part of a standard bar. And I'm just going to start clearing this stuff out because there's like layers here. And so I'm going to get this out of our way as we go along. Now the other, so it's the 5 clears plus whiskey. And whiskey is like, that's like a whole nother lesson. So there's a whole bunch of things that types of drinks. There's different types of whiskey. So there's bourbon, there's like Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey, there's Scotch, there's like small batch. So there's all different types of whiskey, and that's essentially another topic. But a form of whiskey, whether it be, you know, just a stock Jim Beam type of bourbon, or Jack Daniel's Black Label, or whether it's, you know, much more expensive whiskey, that is part of kind of the standard setup along with the 5 clears. Okay. So as we kind of go back a little further into my stack here, the next thing I want to kind of review is the other components that you kind of have on hand. And these are things you can actually find in the grocery store. So for those in Rochester, Wegmans, for those in Pittsburgh here, Giant Eagle, you can find a lot of this stuff. You can also find a lot of this in the state store along with the liquors, but you know, you can get, because it's not a lot of this is non-alcoholic, so you can also get it in a grocery store. So this one's very handy. It's called Rose's Lime Juice. It's in a lot of recipes. It's very sweet, very tart. A little goes a long way. It doesn't spoil, especially if you refrigerate it. Here's another one. This is Grenadine Syrup, and really all this is red food coloring and just sugar. It's just a very sweet additive. So if I had to pick between the two, I'd definitely choose the Rose's Lime. That's more versatile. You're going to use this in a lot more different drinks. And then you've got sweet and sour mix. Now this one's like a $3 bottle of it. Daily sweet and sour mix. There are all kinds of different ones out there. There's ones made by Jose Cuervo, so they have like specialized margarita ones, but you know, just a run-of-the-mill sweet and sour mix will do the same thing, especially if you put the right ingredients and you use the appropriate proportions. They're also very handy because they've got these pour tops on them. These are high-speed pour tops. You'll see bartenders use these a lot. So do not attempt to pre-pour alcohol with these types of tops, but you can, because you're going to be more generous with your sweet and sour mix. So that's what you can use there. So let me set these aside for now. You're also going to have some other things. So today we will use this. This is dry vermouth. This is sweet vermouth. This is more like for the whiskey, like when you get into Manhattans, but sweet and dry vermouth. So I'll leave this here for now. These are Maraschino Cherries, which are in a bunch of different drinks. These are olives, which we will use these tonight. We probably won't use these tonight. Okay, here's a trick. Now I'm going to give you a couple hacks. Here's my favorite 2 hacks. So if you watch the teaser video, you saw that we made the red, white, and blue drink. And as part of that, we had blue curacao, which if you don't have blue curacao or you're running real low on blue curacao, triple sec, which is one of your 5 clears, is almost the exact same thing. So if you don't want to keep both of these on hand, definitely go for the triple sec. And then all you do is pour a little bit off and put some blue food coloring in, and you essentially have almost the exact same thing as blue curacao. And if you want to go for like the higher end name brand in this, you're looking at like a Grand Marnier or like a Cointreau, okay? But you know, triple sec, this is like probably a I don't know, $6 or $7 bottle, and it does just fine. So that's my first hack. The second hack that I'll share with you is a lot of drinks call for cranberry juice, but sometimes when you use like cranberry juice, it dilutes your drink a little bit too much, and so what I get these like syrups, cranberry syrup. It's concentrate, or if you don't have this, you could use the frozen stuff and just get a little bit of spoon out of that. It'll give you the tartness, it'll give you the color that you're looking for in the cranberry juice, but it won't dilute your drinks as much. The other thing, okay, I'll share one more hack, and that is, I have to tilt the camera a little. Well, I have a freezer here, and what you can do is, if you want it you're going to use a lot of ice in bartending. But if you put your liquors in the freezer, you may not have to use much ice at all, and it won't dilute as quickly. Sometimes you want to dilute your drink. Sometimes you want to have it a little bit watered down, but sometimes you don't want to. So if you put anything above 35 proof in the freezer, it will not freeze. This freezer is at minus 10 degrees, and these here, I'll pull out a bottle. This is vodka. This is limoncello. This limoncello is at 35 proof, so it's slightly weaker or slightly less alcohol than a vodka. That's liquid. That's liquid. It's been in there at minus 10 degrees for weeks, and so they will not freeze. Once you start going below about 35 proof, it may freeze a little bit, like it'll start to get that slushy consistency. Once you go below 30, it will freeze solid depending on how cold you keep your freezer. But that's one thing. You could pour drinks without ice. I mean, that you could just pour it like in a glass, and it will be if people like their drinks really cold, you don't have to use any ice at all if they like their drinks strong. Okay, so the other things I'll go through here in Barware, and I'll keep my time. Just want to go through some of the types of glasses that they have, because some of the classic drinks, they kind of have the glassware associated with them. So obviously tonight, vodka, what's the signature glass that goes with it? A martini glass, right? But here's some of the other types. There's rocks glasses, old-fashioned glasses. They're kind of one and the same. These hold about, with ice in them, they'll hold 4 ounces, 4 to 5 ounces. These are Collins glasses. So these are kind of long and thin. The alcohol that's associated, or the signature drink that's associated with this type of glass is a Tom Collins. So it's a gin drink, a gin with sour and usually a cherry on top and some soda. But that's the type of drink that goes in there. Obviously, you guys know what a wine glass looks like. So this one is probably like a 2 to 3 ounce serving. This is more like a standard. So you fill this one to, about 2/3 to 3/4 full, and you get your standard size serving on a wine. Pint glass for beer. Obviously, you guys have seen that. This is a snifter. So this would be for like higher ended liquors. So if you're into brandy or sipping whiskey or like Crevassier or other cognacs and things like that, you put a little bit in this glass, and the idea behind this is it kind of cradles the vapor so that you can get the nice smell to it while you're enjoying it.
Hey John, we had a quick question here.
Yeah.
So the question is the lime juice and cranberry syrup usually in the juice aisle or near the alcohol or a different area of the grocery store?
So this is SodaStream. So they have, if any of you have ever seen that, they have like these things. That's what this particular brand is. They have these things you can get, and that's just the syrup that they're with. So that is in probably where you'd find the juices in the grocery store. So this Rose's lime juice, you'll find that there's typically almost like a specialty section within the grocery store, and you'll see things like in Giant Eagle, I know, and in Rochester, I remember, you'll see like in Rochester, they're big on tipsy cherries, which is like cherries with a little bit of bourbon in them. And like these are Giant Eagle Maraschino Cherries. But you'll see a section like that, and it will have like some so like nowadays you'll see things like ginger beer, and you'll see like light tonic, because tonic water is very caloric. So they have like light tonics. They have like simple syrups. They have a bunch of different things. Usually they're in like, it's a specialty section. So just if you ask, like go to a store and say, hey, where can I find the stuff for mixed drinks, and they'll point you to the right spot, and that's usually where it is. And like I said, this is the standard. I mean, it's not expensive, and you know exactly what you're getting when you ask for Rose's sweetened lime juice, and it's very trusted, and it's used in a lot of recipes. So I would recommend this. This is just like a 12-ounce bottle, and it'll last for a long time. Like you won't use it. Like I said, this goes a long way. So don't be like dumping it in your drinks, or you'll ruin your drinks. Okay. Any other questions?
That's the only one that came in. That's helpful. Thanks, John. And just for time check, it's 6:26.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to move along here a little. Okay, so that's the glassware. I'll try to move some of this out. Obviously, you guys know what shot glasses look like as well. We use those tonight. This is like for mules. There is a vodka mule. We definitely won't have time for that tonight. That is there's whiskey mules, and there's tequila mules, Mexican mules, Moscow mules. There's all different types, but you typically would see them served in like a glass like this or a copper glass. Okay, so this is a mixer. Most of you have seen these before. You've seen bartenders using them. This is a jigger. So these are for measuring, but I'm going to show you a better way than relying on measuring cups to kind of portion out your liquor. These are handy if you're really into margarita. This is salt. This was shaped like a sombrero, and you can put salt in here, and then you take a glass, and then you take a lime, go like this. So these are out there as well, probably in that same section in the grocery store. These are like fancy toothpicks, but any type of toothpick will do. So they've got just your regular old-fashioned toothpicks. Since COVID is big today, they do have disposable versions of shot glasses and barware. So this, if it's outside, it won't break if you drop it, and it's disposable. You can get these at like a Party City. You can get these right at a grocery store, usually in the paper section. Okay. So.
Hey, John, another question from the crowd.
Yes.
The question is, I have heard to not use expensive liquors for mixed drinks. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. I would not. So if you have anything where you're paying more than like $10 or $15 for the bottle, don't mix it. Don't cut it with stuff. I would use that as a sipping product. And here's the other thing. In my opinion, you see a lot of people doing shots, and sometimes it's fun to do a shot quickly. Well, the reason that a lot of people did shots quickly for a long time is it was not super high quality liquor. So you drank it real quick, and that was your shot. But if you get a glass of something that's pretty good, enjoy it. There's no shame, and even if it's just a little tiny thing, sip it and enjoy it. And yeah, save the expensive liquors for that type of thing. And yeah, when you're mixing drinks, you can go for like a lower end type of product, because it doesn't matter. You're going to be cutting it with flavors and mixing it with ice and other things anyway. So yes, that is definitely true. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. So, all right. So yeah, we've seen cranberry syrup, olives. These are bar straws. These are handy, not just for like, just for sipping, but like they're also, you stick them in there and you can stir the drink a little bit if you haven't run it through a shaker. So here's another quick thing I'll show you. Right, fruit cutting is sometimes important, because we'll be using this for the Cosmopolitans tonight. So here is just a quick technique to make nice wedges. Okay, so you take your lime, you cut both ends off like this, slice it in half, so you have almost kind of like a barrel-shaped section of it. And then you take that and you cut it in half again, and then you slice it like this. And then what you end up with when you kind of partition it that way is you have perfect pieces. If you just cut into them, that's a perfect wedge to put, you kind of put it on the edge of the glass like that. Or sometimes you want to rim the glass a little bit to get some juice on there. That's another thing. So that's fruit cutting. There's other things. If we get to a lemon, there's lemon twists. So same thing. When you cut your lemon, cut both ends off. Now, here's the trick with the lemon. You kind of slice it like this, And what that gives you is a little section to move out like this. You want to get the rind. And what that gives you is a twist. So you're going to take, a piece like that. It's maybe about 2 inches long, and you're going to twist it. But you're going to twist it while you kind of have your glass. So you sort of twist it so that you can get a little bit of that lemon oil on the rim of your glass, and then you will put this in your drink if you want to use it as a twist. So that's all kind of with cutting fruit. There's also, so you can, when you got your cross section like this, you can cut your lemon like this and that, cut it like that, and that would be a good way to use it for like a Long Island iced tea or something like that. You cut it in half entirely and use it almost like a larger wedge on the edge of a glass. Or you could use an orange, do the same thing for like Blue Moon beer. Or you can fold it in half and kind of skewer it with a maraschino cherry. And this is called a flag. So let me see if I can get one of these. So you take your maraschino cherry, and you take your orange or your lemon section, you skewer it, and then you have a flag to put on top of your drink. So those are just some quick fruit cutting techniques that you can use. Okay, so we're at half past, and let's see, free pouring. Okay, this is an important topic because you don't always have time to be, if you have more than a handful of people, you're going to be spending a lot of time measuring, and you got to memorize everything in terms of your drink. So what you can do instead of that is what's called free pouring, and if you master this skill, it becomes a very handy tool. So this is where I had said, if you want to practice, use water. Don't use, so this, in this bottle right here is just water, because you're going to do this, you're going to practice a lot. And so what I would recommend, there are apps out there that you can have a metronome, so you can actually kind of time your cadence, because you're going to want to, every type of free pouring topper pours a little bit differently. Some liquors are a little bit thicker than others. Most of them will pour the same. The different shapes of the bottle influence it. So you're going to kind of want to time yourself and figure out. But the most common way is to do a 4 count. So if you are doing it, you tip the bottle, and as soon as it starts to come out of the spout, you kind of time yourself with a 4 count. And there are metronome apps that you can use if you don't have one for like a musical instrument. And so this one here is sound corset tuning and metronome. And so I set it to 100 beats per minute. And I don't know if you can hear that or not, but this perfectly 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, up. And when you measure it, so you can, I would recommend doing it in a container that's not marked, and you have no idea what's in here. So you pour it in, and actually not, that is almost exactly 1 ounce. So the metronome calibration and a little bit of practice will get you, close. So that's, and the reason that we do that, okay, so this jigger is a 2 to 3. So this is 1 ounce, and this is 2/3 of an ounce. I don't know why they do it that way. Some of them are a little different. Some of them are 2 to 1. But if you can master the 4 count technique, all you got to do is multiply it by either a fraction of 4 or a multiple of 4, and you can get any type of serving size that you want. So if you want 3 ounces, you just do a 12 count. If you want a 1/2 ounce, you just do a 2 count. So that is what most bartenders will use as a shortcut. And over time, if you learn it, you'll never have to mess around with measuring instruments. You can just free pour. Okay, so we'll move into vodka. So what exactly is vodka? So let's get rid of some of this stuff here. So vodka is basically just distilled grain. It's been around since at least as far back as the 14th century in Russia and the Balkan countries. It means little water, and it's basically, you want to think of it, it's the opposite of gin. So gin is a grain neutral spirit, but it has some additives in it. It has traces of chemicals, and so Russia is everything removed. So they're called congeners, and all the congeners are completely removed from vodka. So that's why it doesn't have much of a taste of anything. Some people say it tastes like rubbing alcohol, and it's because it's very, very plain. So the way they do this, you can't just distill it under high temperature, because some of the additives that give gin and other spirits their flavor, you can't just boil them off, because they're going to be coming over they're going to drip into the still with the rest of the spirits. So what they do instead is they filter it, typically through activated charcoal. And they do this, some brands advertise they do this 6-7 times or whatever, and that gives them a smooth product. So that's what specifically vodka is. But as we said, it's a very versatile drink, because it's kind of neutral that way. When you mix it with things, it doesn't like make the drink taste funny. So the types of drinks that we can have, so there are martinis, which that's what we'll focus in on, and specifically the type of drink that this is. That's what you would consider a combination drink. So a combination drink has 2 or more components that have alcohol in them. So like the martinis we're going to make are going to have vodka and some other thing that is alcoholic. So the vermouth, for instance, or triple sec in the case of the Cosmopolitan, or chocolate martinis that'll have like a Godiva or creme de cacao. All of those are alcoholic. So combination drinks have 2 types of alcohol in them. So if you're into other types of drinks, so a gimlet, for example, or a vodka cranberry, those might be considered highballs or mixed drinks where you have really only one type of alcohol and then a non-alcoholic component to it. So a gimlet, by the way, is really just 3 parts vodka and 1 part of Rose's lime. So you might mix a drink that has 3 parts of vodka and 3 ounces of vodka and 1 part of this Rose's lime, and that makes a tart drink called a gimlet. Same thing with the vodka cranberry. Vodka cranberry is now much more popular than gimlets. Gimlets is kind of an old-fashioned type of drink, but same thing. You can use, instead of lime juice, you can use either straight up cranberry syrup or cranberry juice in the proportion. That gives you a highball or a mixed drink that's vodka based. But the martini itself is.
John, another question for you before you keep going. What is your favorite vodka?
Okay, that's a great question, because, and this is a obscure answer. This bottle of vodka right here, and it's not the type of vodka, it's this bottle of vodka. So this bottle of vodka was given to me by my best friend from Notre Dame my junior year. And it is still only I still have about 2/3 of it in this bottle. And it was a gift from he was the best man at my wedding. His name's Adam Yewiewski. He is Polish in heritage, and this is original Polish vodka. So it's it's not one that you see out there a lot, but that's the answer to the question. But to answer your question more specifically, I'm not a big vodka connoisseur. If you ask me that question about whiskey, I could answer that question a little more truthfully. But I can't really, if you put 5 different types of vodka in front of me, I couldn't tell you whether it's a $2 bottle of vodka or whether it's a $50 bottle of Effin or Grey Goose or whatever. I don't have that kind of palate. So it's really what you're really up to your and I'm probably offending vodka connoisseurs by saying that, but I don't have one other than my favorite bottle, which has been around for 20 some years. So.
Perfect. That's the only question we have right now. And then again, for time, it's 6:41, so we have about 20 minutes left.
Okay, so I'll try to get through a couple martinis here, and then we'll leave it open for the rest of the time for any other questions or just kind of happy hour. So the Bucca Martini that's like the basic, the most basic one that you have. Is really all it is vodka and dry vermouth. Okay, and really when someone asks a bartender for a martini, it's really a three-part question, like a standard martini. So the question that the bartender kind of has to ask back to the patron is, okay, gin or vodka? So historically, gin, especially depending on what part of Europe you're dealing with, a proper martini was always gin-based, not vodka-based. So it was really, we're starting to get into James Bond trivia, but you ask them gin or vodka, and let's just assume for the sake of this lesson that they say vodka, okay? And then they'll usually specify whether they want it dry or extra dry or super dry, and that will dictate how much of the dry vermouth you put in the drink. And then the second question you ask them is upper rocks. So do they want it with rocks, meaning with ice in a glass like this? Or do they want it in the quintessential martini glass? Most people who have martini, it's a style thing, they'll have it straight up in a martini glass, meaning you'll mix the drink and then you will pour it off without ice into the martini glass. And then you ask them Oliver twist. So a martini can come with, most people know, an olive, and there's varying opinions even on that as to do you use an odd number or an even number of olives. So some people say one's not enough. Some people say three is a meal. I think Ronald Reagan used to say three olives is a meal. So people have different opinions on that, but I've heard you always use an odd number, meaning one or three. But anyway, olives or twist. So we learned how to do the twist when we were cutting the fruit. So that's the third question. So if someone asks you, orders a martini, you ask them gin or vodka, upper rocks, and Oliver twist. And once they answer those three questions, you can make them a martini. And then here's a little more of that James Bond trivia. So that shaken, not stirred, it was really not a thing until he came along. So you would never shake vodka. You're not really supposed to. So how you're supposed to do it, and this is just water. So you take it and you put your vodka in there. 10, 11, 12. So that should be about 3 ounces of vodka. And then really just an eighth of a, so if they order it dry, or if they don't specify, it's a 1/4 teaspoon of dry vermouth. If they order it dry, you put an eighth of a teaspoon. If they want it super dry, you can crack a joke like wave the bottle over and say, "Is that dry enough for you?" But about a 1/4 teaspoon in a regular martini. And then what you're really supposed to do is just take the spoon and sort of stir it like this. Okay? Because so where that shaken thing came in, so James Bond was a bad boy. So number one, he ordered vodka, which an Englishman would never do because that's a Russian drink, right? Vodka. And number two, you would never shake good booze, because if you take booze and you shake it with ice in a shaker like this, if you shake it up hard, it does what's called bruising the liquor. So if you shake this up with ice and do shaken but not stirred, so in other words, stirring with a spoon like that, so you would stir it with a spoon and then take one of these, or just like do one of these and pour it off into your thing. Shaken, you use a shaker, and then you take the thing off and you pour it into your martini glass. And if I did it right, it should be just about this is a 3 ounce martini glass, so that's about right. And then you can, like I said, you take your twist and you garnish the edge with the lemon oil and kind of sit it on the edge of the glass like that. Or you take a couple olives and you get your toothpick and you skewer 1 or 3 I like 3 personally. And you float them. You could set it on the edge or put it in the bottom. But there's your martini. But yeah, back to the James Bond thing. That was the other thing. Because of his bad boy image, he always ordered them shaken. But when you do that, if you just take like a clear liquor, like a high-end gin or vodka, put it in with ice, shake it up, and pour it into a clear glass like this, what you're going to see is it almost looks like little striations. Like if you hold it up to the light, you can kind of see the liquor sort of spiraling. And that means that the liquor is bruised. And so that was not considered proper. And so that's why most bartenders shake it. Most people don't care, but it's just a little bit of bar trivia for you. And how James Bond kind of came into the picture with the whole martini. So that's a regular martini. So we'll move on to the specialty martinis. So now we're talking about Cosmopolitan, which, people kind of poke fun. It's a quintessential female drink, but there's nothing weak about it. It is a full-fledged 2 ounces of vodka and 1 ounce of triple sec and a little bit of this Rose's lime, about a ½ ounce of this Rose's lime, and then you put a little bit of either cranberry juice or how I like to with a little bit of cranberry, just the syrup, and that gives it its flavoring. And again, we'll do it in here. So I'm going to do this one with water as well. The last thing I'll do tonight, I'll make it for real. We'll do the chocolate martini for real. But anyway, so now if you're free pouring, the Cosmopolitan has only 2 ounces because we're going to have some other liquors in it. So now we're talking about an 8 count because you want 2 ounces. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to switch. I didn't go over the stoppers, but basically the stoppers I like are the cheapest ones because they're the most, you can manhandle them. They're durable. They're the all plastic ones. So the ones where they're like part stainless steel and part plastic, they pour a little bit too fast. So I prefer the all plastic ones. So anyway, I'm just going to switch over. There was just water in this, so there's no cross-contamination of the liquor. This is actual triple sec. So again, 1 ounce of this. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to measure out. You can use a little measuring cup to measure about a ½ an ounce of. I'm not going to put a pour stopper on this one, but you could free pour this as well, I guess. But this is about a ½ an ounce of the Rose's lime juice. And then you're going to use, depending on how weak it is, so if it's like cranberry juice, you use like a whole ounce of cranberry juice. Or because there's ice in this glass, there's going to be some dilution. So the cranberry syrup will mix with the ice, melt off, and give you about the right amount of cranberry syrup. What I find is if you use about a ½ tablespoon of cranberry juice, that'll give you the right color and the right taste. And let's see. So again, just regarding the whole shaking admonishment, we'll shake that up. This is a blue tinted martini glass. Like I said, we saw how to cut the limes. You kind of go around to give a little bit of flavor to the edge of the glass. You pour it in, and you've got a Cosmopolitan. And you can serve it with a straw if you want, or just have them sip it like that. Okay, so there's your Cosmopolitan. And then the last one that I'm going to do tonight is the chocolate martini, which is extremely popular holiday gatherings. So start just like any other martini. And in this case, I didn't get a chance to go over flavored vodkas, but there's a whole slew of flavored vodkas out there now. So like you're gonna see ones like Citron, Absolute Citron. This is just a chocolate flavored vodka. So you can do this two ways, by the way. So the recipe I usually use is chocolate vodka and like a Godiva, which is, or creme de cacao, either way. And that gives you a very sweet, very chocolatey drink. The other way you could do it, but what you do is you just mix the proportions a little differently, is if all you have is regular vodka and then like a creme de cacao. So this is not particularly expensive. This might be a $12 or $15 bottle of Godiva, but there's probably a $7 or $8 or $9 bottle of creme de cacao that's bigger than this out there that will do the exact same thing. But if you're using straight vodka and creme de cacao or this, it's going to be more like half and half, so a 1-to-1. Whereas this is more like a 2-to-1. So again, you're going to go 8 counts of this, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you're going to go 4 counts of this. I don't have a stopper. Stop right there. We'll go 4 counts of the Godiva, 4, and then we will mix this up. Right. And you know, let's use our plastic martini glass. It's handy. Pour it in there, and it gives you a nice creamy, like brown color. If you use like a clear creme de cacao, it does the same thing. It's just not chocolate colored, but it tastes just as good. Then here's the trick with this one, is to make it really attractive. So instead of olives, we're going to use Rolos. And how we're going to get the Rolos to kind of settle in there, we're going to use some whipped cream and really layer it on there. And then we're going to take our Rolos, and I usually use 2 because it makes a nice way to kind of balance your Rolos. So what you do is you take a regular toothpick and you skewer your Rolos. They're nice because they have caramel centers. And then you pull them apart a little bit, and then you just set it right on the edge like that, and it sits on your chocolate martini. And that's the martini. So again, you've got other drinks that you can do with vodka. We mentioned the Gimlets and the vodka cranberry. Those are not combination drinks. They're more like mixed drinks. The shots that you can do with vodka. So in the demo, you saw the red, white, and blue drink, which is really just blue curacao. Whereas we learned the bar hack, you could use triple sec, a little bit of blue food coloring, and vodka in a 1-to-1 ratio. So you can make it in batches, or just make like 2 ounces at a time for people, whatever way you want, and then just put a little bit of the red cranberry juice, or the red grenadine will also work, and it'll make a purple drink. So those are shots. And then the other fun shot that I'll tell you about with a type of vodka, it's citron. So if you do shots with a 1-to-1 ratio of citron vodka, it's like lemon vodka. It's still foolproof vodka. It's still 80 proof vodka. And then Frangelico, it's like a hazelnut liqueur. If you mix this in a 1-to-1 ratio, I can't explain it. Maybe there's a cheg out there who can, but it tastes exactly like chocolate cake. So that's what the name of the drink is. It's chocolate cake. So you can pour these 2 in a 1-to-1 ratio. And honestly, if you put it in front of someone, they will think it's chocolate cake. And that may be a good COVID test, because you'll be able to taste and smell chocolate cake if you don't have it. So I'm way over the lecture time, so let me hand it back over to Maura and Carrie, and see if there's any questions, and if not, I guess we'll move on.
Thanks, John. Thanks for everything. That was awesome. And I think everyone really enjoyed it. A bunch of people were following along and pouring their own drinks at home. So everyone's technique looked good to me. I'm curious, you said 4 seconds with the 100 metronome. I'm wondering what the ND Victory March ratio is for a 4-second pour. Maybe next time you can show us what that would look like. But
that is definitely faster, by the way. It's more than 100.
It's like about 150. Yeah. We'll figure it out for the next one, Gretchen. But anyway, we'll open the floor to questions. I know we're at the top of the hour, so before people drop, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining, especially our friends from the Rochester Club and
Thank you.
Indianapolis Club. John and I will most likely coordinate a few more of these going forward to feature some of the other alcohols. So stay tuned and give our ND Club of Pittsburgh Facebook page a like. And we're also on Instagram. So stay tuned. We'd love to see you all again. And with that, we can open the floor to questions. Let's see. Andy is asking, is there a particular use for 100 proof vodka versus the usual 80?
No, it's really just if you're going to make stronger drink. So if it's 100 proof vodka, it's probably like a name brand, like a higher end. So again, you may want to use it as like a sipping type vodka, just in like a shot glass as a sipping type product, as opposed to mixing your expensive vodka into your drinks that are going to get diluted anyway. If you want to make stronger drinks, instead of buying higher proof liquor, use that trick I told you about. Put your vodka in the freezer, and that way when it hits the ice, hardly any of it will melt because it'll already be probably colder than ice is anyway.
Mike wants to know, what is your favorite gin?
Favorite gin? I like Seagram's. So because honestly, gin has a pretty strong flavor to it, and so this is maybe like a 10 or $9 or $10 bottle, and you could spend a lot of money. Like you can go to Beefeaters, and that might be for a same size bottle. That might be a $40 bottle. So I like this just because it suits every day. So if you're going to make a martini with it, a lot of times people want it, they call it a dirty martini. So you're going to be mixing a lot of, not a lot, but you're going to be mixing some olive juice with it. If you put it in a Tom Collins, you're going to be mixing it with sweet and sour mix and topping it with soda. So you're really not, if you buy a $40 or $50 bottle of Tanqueray or Bombay Sapphire or Beefeaters, you're really not getting your money's worth. So for what I use it for, I like this.
What would you recommend for an easy, refreshing summer cocktail?
Oh, the Tom Collins is popular if you like drink. So an easy summer cocktail, you could go with like a rum and coke. You could go with it really depends on what type of liquor that you like. So that's the other thing about getting to know the types of liquors. If you're hosting a party and your guests like a certain type of liquor, you probably want to be able to make 2 or 3 different types of drinks with that liquor. So if like for instance, I think Maura, you said you only have vodka, right? So what can I do with vodka? Well, you can make those gimlets with the roses lime juice. Like I said, if you have this on hand, and martini in and of itself, like a dry martini, isn't a particularly easy sipping. So you'd probably want to go to at least the Cosmopolitan like this if you have the ingredients, if you have the triple sec and the cranberry to make this, because it goes down a little easier, but it's still a stiff drink. You could go vodka soda. So right now, the biggest, like the kind of the biggest fad right now is these spiked seltzers. So if you don't have like a White Claw or a Bud Light seltzer on hand, just make your own. So you get seltzer water. So like one of these I have right here, sparkling water, and this is just like all it is carbonated water, seltzer, and just you can mix it with vodka, and it's the same thing as a White Claw. So especially if people are into watching carbs, that's a very good drink because all of those liquors that are 80 proof, there's very little carbs, believe it or not, in those. So beer has, depending on the type of beer, if it's not a light beer, beers have a lot of carbs in them, 12 to 15 carbs depending on the beer. But most of those distilled drinks, including whiskey, including vodka, including gin, they have very little carbs in them. So if you mix it with a seltzer, it's not a lot of calories, not a lot of carbs. It's very easy, very refreshing.
Should an open bottle of vermouth be kept refrigerated as an open bottle of wine would?
You don't have to. They're typically high enough proof. I'd probably recommend it if you're going to keep it for a real long time, but it will not go bad even if you keep it in there for a year or two. Now, what I would say, I forgot to mention this, if you buy pour tops like this, don't leave them on and out like this. So if you go to a bar, and the bars typically leave them out like this overnight, but what you'll notice is they'll put like paper cups over top of them. And that's because like fruit flies are attracted to the sugars in the alcohol, and they will try to get their way into this. So not that there may be fruit flies in your house, that's less of a concern. More so that like if you leave this and like you don't drink a lot of alcohol, you might leave this on your shelf for 2 or 3 months. The alcohol will start evaporating, and then your liquor will taste a little off. So don't leave these on. Take them off and keep the caps and put them back on when you're done. But in terms of storing it, almost anything that's above 12 or 15 will keep as a shelf life. So let me see what this one is. This one's 16%. This particular one, this is just Gallo extra dry vermouth. So this one would tolerate shelf life pretty well. But anything that you have any sort of doubts or that you're going to be keeping for like months or years, it's just as well to refrigerate them. But you can't freeze this because it's way below the 30-ish proof threshold that would freeze.
To everyone who made a drink during John's session, how does it taste? Good.
I'm a dirty martini person myself, and I had the olive juice and stuff ready to go, and it's fantastic. In my little empty glass.
Love it.
I just went with vodka and grapefruit juice because that's what I had, and it's very tasty and refreshing.
Awesome.
For grapefruit juice fan, Maura, there's a drink called Sea Breeze. I think that has I'm trying to remember. It's definitely vodka and I think cranberry juice, and it might be seltzer. So if you like grapefruit, check out Sea Breeze. I mean, by the way, I forgot to mention there's any number of bartending apps out there, or if you're real old school and you prefer like a book, here's the one that they told us about when I did training, the New York Bartender's Guide, and it has like a lot of the classic recipes in it. But there's any number of hundreds of bar apps that will give you like recipes for any of this stuff.
I think the last question in here is, what is your favorite whiskey?
My favorite whiskey, I would say that I like Scotch, and it is Balvenie. So there's a couple different ones. I actually like Balvenie makes like a 12-year, a 14-year, and a 17-year. And honestly, I like the 12-year the best. It's the lowest end, the cheaper one. Because I kind of just like that. But I also like bourbon a lot. So Maker's Mark is probably
it's good stuff.
favorite, just because you can get it almost anywhere. And a shout out again to the folks in upstate New York. This stuff here is fantastic. It's Hudson Whiskey. So this is like one of those small batch type, boutique distilleries. But this is made in Tuttleton, New York. So it's up, kind of in upstate New York. I learned about this when I was in Rochester. But I mean, you can get this anywhere, including in our state stores here in PA. Now this is, probably a little higher on the price point than Maker's Mark, and it's really kind of gives you the same thing. But I'd say the most bang for your buck for a pretty good whiskey, if you like bourbon, which is a little on the sweeter end because it's made with distilled corn, would be Maker's Mark.
Thanks, John. Those are all the questions that came in on the chat. Does anybody have any other questions before we end?
No, I was just going to say something sort of funny for John's benefit. Like, my mother was a Scotch drinker, and she became a Scotch drinker because at 18, when they raised the drinking age to 21, people would tell her, if you go to a bar and order scotch, no one will think you're underage because no one drinks scotch. So it's funny that scotch is your favorite.
I like it just because, and again, I would never mix this with anything. I would never pound it as a shot. That's just, to me, your waste. Yeah, that is just an abuse of, talk about alcohol abuse. That is just, this is, you pour this out in like a 1 or at most 2 ounce shot glass, and or a little bigger glass, and you enjoy it while you're watching TV or whatever. So.
Thank you so much, John and Maura. This was great.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you,
Thanks,
John.
guys.
Thanks.